don't worry, he won't get far on foot. I have a feeling this isn't going to be at the top of either one of our lists, but it was a pretty good movie. You know, a Gus Van Sant joint. I like calling things joint now that Spike Lee's calling his movie a joint. So.
Spike Lee joint. Yeah. When he did the story for NBA 2K, I want to say 2014 or something, they called it a Spike Lee joint. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, I'm down with that. 77% Rotten Tomatoes. I think it only made like close to 400K. There's a small box office for it.
Yeah, small theaters. Yeah. It's not gonna. It's the indie box office scene. It's a cheap movie.
Exactly.
Small exhibition.
Yeah, and it's Amazon Studio, so I mean
it'll be on Prime later in the year.
Exactly. So if you don't want to go out to the movies and see it, you can watch it with your Prime subscription soon. Joaquin Phoenix plays John Calloway in this, also surrounded by Jonah Hill. Callahan, sorry. Jonah Hill, Rooney Mara, Jack Black, Carrie Brownstein, which it was really funny to see Carrie Brownstein in this movie because it takes place in Oregon, and the last thing I knew her from was Portlandia. So I was just like, oh, of course you're going to be on this show. Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I mean, we're probably going to get a spoiler. So if you don't want this movie to be spoiled for you for some reason, come back.
It's a biopic of sorts. It's not it's a nonfiction, fictional portrayal of a real person.
It's literally based off of John Callahan's autobiography,
the Oregon cartoonist.
Yeah,
but before we go into spoilers, I think we both think it's good. Not fantastic, not amazing, but it's worth a watch. Good performances.
Mm-hmm. And come back after. So jumping into spoilers, I mean, Joaquin Phoenix is on a goddamn heater of performances. I gotta say, I was just looking through like the movies he's done: The Master, Inherent Vice, Her, The Immigrant, Two Lovers, We Own the Night, You Were Never Really Here. I mean, maybe there's like one or two like listful or list performances I could say, but overall, just like every time he takes a movie, I feel like I come away being like, God damn, that guy can act. What did you think of his performance in this?
Yeah, well, it's nice to see him back with Gus Van Sant. He gave Joaquin his break back in the 80s, late 80s. And Gus Van Sant is really interesting because if you look at his career, he's a guy who's got an up and down filmography. I mean, he has Milk in 2008, which was probably the one of his most. Well, it's funny because he has Milk and Good Will Hunting, which are the only two movies he's made that have grossed over $50 million. But Good Will Hunting, he doesn't get a lot of credit for.
No.
Everyone gives credit to how plain he directed it, and he let the screenplay from Affleck and Damon do all the heavy lifting. So his best movie is probably Drugstore Cowboy, I guess.
Yep.
But these are a lot of small movies. He gets the fact that he's a bigger name. So yeah, it's cool to see him back with Joaquin. And yeah, I thought Joaquin was really good, and he kind of gave like a multi-layered performance as Callahan does his ups and downs throughout his life, and that was nice to see. It's different it's not as intense as You Were Never Really Here. I think that's overall a better performance, just because it requires more out of Joaquin, whether it's physical acting, or just conveying emotion at the end. But this movie, I think it's a convincing portrayal. He's probably not the only one who could have pulled this off, though. It's not like that level of Joaquin role, but yeah, he was good.
Yeah, it's funny because I thought Van Sant was fine. Like I think there was some like confusing parts, and the timeline things almost kind of seem like
that's my main problem with the movie.
Yeah, I didn't think it even made a lot of sense when you would jump in and out of it.
Meanders. It's longer than it needs to be. It's like in the middle. I was like, am I liking this as much as I think I am? Like, I wasn't quite sure it knew what it was trying to tell me. And I think it wraps up nicely. But yeah, I think there were some pacing and structure issues.
Yeah, definitely. And I also felt like they yada some pretty important parts. Like pretty much all of his like making amends with people. They're just like, oh, he's gonna go, and then it's fine.
It was a glorified montage.
Yeah, and like I would have liked to have seen some of those conversations, or at least like parts of them, if possible.
Jack Black's on, but it was good.
Yeah, I thought so too, and that I thought Jack Black was actually really great. He got to be very Jack Blacky for the first part of his performance, and then he actually kicked in some of those acting chops near the end.
When they're on the bender or having that night, that's great. Like there's that shot where they're both on the roller coaster and they're both already tanked and they're like swaying. And I'm like, oh, that's great. That's a great shot. And it's a shot that's totally out of place in the film because everything else is so plain.
I know.
You know? But I loved everything with that moment.
Yeah, when I was seeing that, it's funny because obviously it's going to be different stylistically, but I was like, I can really see Joaquin as the Joker, like doing this because it calls back to Heath Ledger, obviously the last one, or second to last one. I'm skipping over Jared Leto's most recent one. The thing, you mentioned how the internet and snail mail kind of can be sleepy at times. I felt that way during parts of this movie. And the line in the movie that I think describes the movie best is that he's talking with Donnie and he like talks about how, or he's in the group and he talks about how he like didn't feel wanted as a kid and how that made him basically like drink all of his problems away. So he never had to feel anything. And then he's like, I thought I was going to feel so much better after I said this. I don't feel it. I don't really feel that anything. And he's like, yeah, that's kind of how this stuff works. Like it's not those big moments. Like you don't really feel it that way. And I was just like, that's how I feel about this movie. Like it had potential to have those big moments, or I wanted to have those really big moments, and it never really had a big moment. It felt too just even keel.
Yeah, he doesn't have like a come to Jesus moment. There's no mea culpa really, you know. And like I like Jonah Hill a lot. I think it's a great Jonah Hill performance. Again, a truly underrated dramatic actor. I'm really happy he continues to make these kind of choices. At the end, when they finally break it to you that he's sick and you assume it's AIDS or HIV because you know he's gay, and at the time the movie takes place in the 80s, and like they don't he does like the mouth and he kind of makes a joke of it, but he doesn't say, John, I have AIDS. He doesn't spell it out for John or the audience. I'm like, okay, cool, I like that. That made you figure it out on your own. And at the end when he dies, John's like, oh yeah, he died of AIDS. I was like, did you have to? It's a little thing. It doesn't really change anything. But for me, I was just like, come on, just let us know that already. You know, it's a smarter movie than that.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's also another problem I have with it is you have Rooney Mara, right? She plays his girlfriend in this, and dog.
The fuck is the point of her?
Yeah, exactly. Like, how do you
talk
not
about
give
failing
her
the
more
Bechdel test?
I mean, even at the end, like they're going through the comics, and he's like, "Which one do you think is funnier?" And her actual line is, "I don't know." That like sums up her character better than anything. I mean, like at least have her make a choice. Like, I mean, you have a great actress like Rooney Mara, who, I mean, she's not only gorgeous, but she just is a fantastic actress.
Yeah.
To like not give her anything to do,
Oscar nominated.
It's criminal, man. Criminal.
Aren't they? They're real life partners, right? Joaquin and Rooney.
Oh, I did not know that.
I think that might factor into the why she decided to do a glorified bit role, because it's with her fucking boyfriend. I don't know.
Yeah, that's got to be the only reason I can think of. Like she's way above a role like that. I mean, looking through one thing I did think that stood out to me and added a lot of emotional heft to the emotional moments was Danny Elfman's musical direction on this.
Right.
Really liked
a lot of shit for his DC scores recently, but I think he did a good job with this.
Yeah, I mean, he gives it a great tone at the beginning. It's very like jazzy, and then he fills it out with some really nice some orchestral pieces, and I think he also put in some like 70s songs to kind of give it that atmosphere as well throughout. So I thought that was really great. Other than that, I mean, Joaquin's great.
Yeah, I think his whole struggle with alcoholism and his struggle with becoming paralyzed, I think, is played well. I'm watching the movie and I'm like, we just had the whole thing with Scarlett Johansson dropping out of that transgender film because she's not a transgender person, right? And I was thinking, I was like, are we going to have that with handicapped people too? Should an able-bodied man be playing this? There's not a lot of these roles, and they're always going to the more famous able-bodied actor, Yeah. And I was like, yeah, it's kind of the same principle. So that did cross my mind. I think not everyone thinks that way, but I did think of that. But I thought overall it was pretty compelling, when he's going to physical therapy and when that funny moment when he gets the nurse to sit on his face. I thought that was awesome. Yeah. And to confirm, Rooney and Joaquin, not only are they dating together, and Rooney Mara is selling her house. So
wow,
serious.
We're bringing you all the latest happenings in Hollywood couples. You mentioned the thing about like sitting on his face scene though. There were some funny moments like that, like the what was the line? It was something about like someone's cooch. I can't. Yep. I didn't write it down. I have it pulled up.
Overall, his black comedy. which eventually made him famous through his cartoons. I think overall it played really well.
Yeah, and the way that they spliced that in around his accident too, like how they showed the cartoon of the guy like outside the car, I thought was really great. Other than just showing it,
what'd you think of that motif he kept having, where it's like, yeah, I only know 3 things about my mother. She was Irish American, she had red hair, and whatever. Oh yeah, and she didn't want me or something. I think he did that 2 or 3 times.
Yeah,
like, almost verbatim.
Least. Yeah, I mean, it kind of became the way he understood his life, and that was such a pivotal moment. I thought that scene was kind of hokey, even though it was obviously like something that he must have really happened to him. Where he feels the hand on his back and sees his mom, or has the hallucination of his mom. But yeah, I think it was just to drive home the point. Like, he knows so little about his past, and that's what kind of haunts him and pushes his struggle forward. Also, I really liked him whipping around in that motorized wheelchair.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Awesome. It was must have been one of the first ones to really be motorized like that.
Sure, because you could see how big it was,
Yeah.
Which is form factor, not a modern, that's for sure. And also funny when the kids are like, yo, you wiped out, man. And I was like, oh fuck, these kids gonna mug him right now? Oh no, they thought it was funny. Nice. Yeah, I thought all the sponsor scenes at Jonah Hill's home were good. We didn't get much from those other people in the group, but I thought they all gave pretty good performances.
Reba,
the one woman, not the Valium wife, the other one, this was her first film role.
Wow,
so good for her, because I thought she did a good job.
You're talking about the bigger woman, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought she was fantastic. When she's laughing at him, saying oh, I'm paralyzed or whatever, and she starts laughing. He's like, what are you laughing at? And he's like, you can't know what it's like to go through this. And she's like, well, actually, I have cancer of the heart. So
yeah,
boom,
burn.
And also when the guy freaks out about how women can't understand what it's like for men to. That was
war.
Yeah, really powerful. Yeah, I mean, there's some things to really like about it. I think overall, it's a good movie to watch at home, because there were times I just kind of wanted to check my phone, and you could have and not really missed much. So if you don't really have a connection to John Callahan as a person, I would say, well, wait till this hits your Amazon Prime, then check it out. Any last thoughts around
story worth learning though? So yeah, I think it's worth the watch. But yeah, overall, it was longer and not as well paced as it could have been.
Any last thoughts?
No, but go see it at some point.